Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Falcons Central Radio Show on the Pro Football Central Radio Network. I am Aaron Freeman, founder of FalcFans.com. I am joined by my colleague and co-host on this show, Scott Karasik, covers the Falcons for Bleacher Report. We are here as we are every week to discuss the Atlanta Falcons. And tonight is a special night because we are, I can't do math in my head. 7 hours since the start of free agency. A lot of stuff has happened in the last 7 hours involving the Falcons. We'll discuss some of that tonight. We might touch on a little bit of the other stuff as well. We will also be answering your mailbag questions as usual. We got plenty tonight, as you guys have been pretty good these last couple of weeks at giving us a lot of stuff to talk about every night. So we thank you for that. And Scott, let's start off with talking a little bit of Falcons news. We were hoping that the Falcons would make a couple of moves tonight. They did. So one of them was one that we kind of been hearing about for the last couple of days. That was signing Brooks Reed. A couple of other ones that were kind of new. We didn't hear a whole lot of buzz over the weekend about the Falcons signing some of these guys, but no worries. We'll talk about those guys too. And there's a guy currently in Atlanta who everybody is hoping the Falcons sign, Derek Morgan. Hopefully we'll have some breaking news while we're doing the show, but we'll see how that plays out. So Scott, let's start off with Brooks Reed.
I'm a fan of Brooks Reed. I think he's a good player. I wanted him in Atlanta back in the 2011 draft, just to show you how far back I went. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's an amazing player, but for what they signed him for, I think he's going to be more than worth it. Think Bierman, but, can tackle, won't miss tackles, intelligent, strong football player, but, doesn't do the stupid things that Bierman does. A little bit more technically sound than Bierman, a little bit stronger than Bierman. Basically, what Bierman aspired to be before his Achilles injury.
Okay, I can get on board with that. I think the way I'd say it is, if you could think of a positive memory you have of Corey Bierman over the last 7 years, that's basically what Brooks Reed is. So
Like
just
that
picture that in your
interception.
mind, like that interception against the Browns, and what was that, '09? That game against the Dolphins in '09. Week 16 this past year. It's the Saints. That's kind of basically what Brooks Reed is, with long hair.
That's pretty fair. That's pretty fair. Only all the time and not for like that flash of a game or two.
So, Scott, I think we both agree that Brooks Reed is going to be the strong side outside linebacker. What do you think this does, just briefly, what do you think this does for the Falcons' possibility of using that number one pick on another guy like, say, Vic Beasley, that some people have pegged in for that spot?
I think it means that Beasley would play the Leo.
Okay. I don't
which
disagree.
isn't a bad
No.
fit.
I was wondering if that was going to be your answer. So, okay. That's basically all I wanted you to say. All right, let's move on to the other outside linebacker we signed, Justin Durant, ex-Dallas Cowboy, ex-Detroit Lion, ex-Jacksonville Jaguar. Scary thought here, folks, but Mike Smith drafted him in Jacksonville. Oh, no. Someone who's associated with Mike Smith. No, I think Justin Durant's a good player. I think he's how do I describe him? He's a good fit. He's a player. He does what you want a linebacker to do. If you want him to, I think he's best in playing in space. But if you need him to play on the line of scrimmage and cover tight ends, he can do that. If you need him to beat blockers in traffic, he can do that. But his key asset, his main asset, is his speed and ability to play sideline to sideline. And I think he'll be a pretty good fit and a definite upgrade over our current options at outside linebacker. So I like the move.
I mean, I like him too. He is what Spoon is. Basically, what I was hoping Spoon would be post-injury. Spoon probably wasn't going to be a Pro Bowler post-injury, but that solid middle of the road, linebacker who is a good leader off the field.
Okay. I would say, in comparison to Spoon, I would say a good day for Justin Durant is an average day for Sean Witherspoon. But post Achilles injury, maybe it would have been a good day for Sean Witherspoon. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Post Achilles injury.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm good with this. These outside linebacker signings, yeah, they're not sexy. I probably would have been a little bit more excited had we signed, say, Akeem Ayers and Bruce Carter, just because I think those guys have a lot of upside that they haven't really explored yet in their NFL careers. But I think the difference with Reed and Durant are they're kind of known. They are what they are. You know what you're going to get each week. They're pretty consistent at giving you exactly what you want each week. You could probably argue that Carter and Ayers don't. You can have wild swings for them, but I'm not going to complain about these moves at all. They're solid moves. Falcons got better at a key position, and they got two decent to pretty good starters. Hopefully, they didn't spend a whole lot of money. We know that the Reed signing wasn't a whole lot. It's about average starter money. I don't know if you've heard anything, Scott, about how much money Durant got, but I'm assuming it's not going to be a whole lot.
We won't see that for a couple of days. The NFLPA database gets backed up for like 5 days after free agency starts, and it just looks like a total cluster. And it crashes all the time, and I just kind of wait for a week until I go back and verify all my numbers.
Okay. All right, so those were the two big moves that the Falcons made today, but they made, I wouldn't say two little moves. They made one little move and then one pretty good move, medium-sized move. The little move was signing Mike Person. The medium-sized move was re-signing Antoine Smith. So, Scott, what are your thoughts on those?
About the other re-signs that all happened this week. They re-signed.
I guess we have been we've been gone for a while, so we should talk about those. Yeah, you're right.
They re-signed Weems and Stupar, and who's the other special teams guy? They re-signed 3 special teams guys, basically. Oh, and Godfrey.
Yeah, and Yates.
Yeah, and Yates. So Weems, Godfrey, Yates, Stupar. Yates, great backup quarterback signing. Guy from Atlanta. It's tough to be like, oh, we hate this guy. I mean, he probably signed a minimum deal. You can't really get mad about that. Charles Godfrey, minimum for his tenure is around $870,000. So he only signed a contract that was about $330,000 more at $1.2 million. At first, it sounded like a lot, but it's really not that bad when you know that. And then you also have the signings of Weems for about $1.5 million a year, which he's one of the top special teams gunners in the league. You might as well pay him that money, especially since you've got to breach the salary floor anyway. And then who was the other signing? Stupar. Stupar makes veteran minimum for his year. Like, you can't hate signings like that for the money because the money's not bad on any of it. None of it's crippling the cap. It's all good, solid guys who contribute at least something. In the worst case scenario, if you do cut them, you're not taking any real cap hit if you cut them.
Yeah, I agree. I think Godfrey actually has a decent chance of starting. I think he's kind of like the de facto starter until the Falcons find someone better at free safety. We'll see if that happens. It probably will.
I
But
think roster.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, what do you think about Anton coming back? I'm sure you're excited.
Uh, I like Anton. I want to see the money on the deal. As long as it's not over $3 million a year, which I doubt it is. I doubt it's over $1.5 million a year, honestly. As long as it's not over, say, $2 million a year, we'll say, I'll be very happy with the deal. I'll be very happy with the deal. If it's the same deal that Eric Weems signed, I'll be even more happy with the deal. Because that's a perfect 2 years, $3 million, $500,000 signing bonus. That's what he's worth. You get him 29, 30. You get a guy who's great as a great fit, not as a starter, but as a change of pace back for the zone blocking scheme. I think Devontae is going to start. Now you just need your real power complement. And those are in the draft everywhere. David Cobb in the 5th, St. Days in the 7th. I mean, you can get power complement anywhere. The team loves Devontae Freeman. From speaking with his agent, he has been on the phone with Dan Quinn probably every day since Quinn came in. When he got drafted by the Falcons, I said he compares a lot to Warrick Dunn. And one thing Warrick Dunn had was a power back named TJ Duckett, for those who aren't long-term Falcons fans. And Duckett,
Okay.
All those third and shorts, all those goal line downs. People hated Warrick Dunn in fantasy because he'd get like 1,000, 1,200 yards a year in that range. And then 3 touchdowns. And they were all like 15-plus yard touchdowns. And then TJ Duckett had like 200 to 300 yards a year and like 8 to 9 touchdowns. So people were like, man, I hate Falcons running backs. I can't get anything out of them. Like, don't get them unless you're, wide receiver heavy team. Yeah, that's what I see Devontae Freeman being, which I would love. I think it'd be a good compliment for Matt Ryan. I think it'd be nice to have 1,000-yard, 300-yard catching back.
Okay. All right. I like Devontae. We share the same last name. We can probably claim that we're like 5th cousins or something like that. So
and not be wrong.
So I'm looking forward to see what Devontae does. I think he's got to improve in some areas, but I do think my tendency is a lot of times running backs can make big strides in year 2, year 3 that you didn't see coming. I've been wrong on a lot of running backs coming into the NFL. I can think of a couple like Jamal Charles and Rashard Mendenhall and Le'Veon Bell as guys that were like, they're all right. And then, they sort of added some skills to their repertoire once they got into the NFL and became much, much better players than I thought they were. So I think Devontae has that opportunity, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there. But I do more sort of see him as a good third down back more than the number 1 guy. But, I reserve the right to be wrong. And if he is that number 1 guy and that 1,000-yard rusher, then I'll be claiming him as my cousin every week on Twitter. So look forward to that.
And it'll be the best I was wrong out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. And then Anton Smith coming back's awesome. Yates coming back, I'm cool with. Let's see where we're at. Oh, Mike Person. Okay. So I found the 69 snaps that he played on. Went back through the games, figured out what he did. Most of the time he was the 6th offensive lineman, so it really didn't give me anything. I've got really nothing I can say about the guy. I don't think that he's anything more than like a value depth signing. If he makes the roster, cool. If he doesn't, yeah, I don't see anything.
Yeah, I went back and watched a little bit of him from this past year because basically he came in as a sub in like 3 games. I watched 2 of them against the Chiefs in Week 8 and what else? I got it written down somewhere. The Raiders in Week 13. He basically played like 20 snaps in each of those games because someone got hurt, Roger Saffold. Um, and he looks like basically what you said. I thought he was fine as a run blocker. I thought, as far as being asked to do the run blocking in a zone blocking scheme, I think he's fine. I think he's going to do a pretty good job doing that. The issue I saw on tape was pass protection. He struggled a lot with. He really had issues with the initial engagement with defensive linemen. I saw a lot of defensive linemen able to beat him with swim moves and basically disengage from him off of his initial punch. And, that's obviously a concern because basically, guys like Pat Sims and Dontari Poe were just blowing by him. You don't want to see 330-pound guys just, just blowing by a guy. So, I think that's going to be the issue that I think he can work on it. He's a little bit too much of a waist bender. He needs to improve his punch. But those are things that you can kind of coach up. And maybe if Chris Morgan and Keith Butler do their job this spring and summer, then he can coach those things up and he'll be competent. And, he's probably – you're looking at, the 8th or 9th offensive lineman, probably what you're hoping for with Person. So yeah.
Basically what he was in St. Louis.
Yeah, basically. I think he was 7th on their team just because they didn't have good depth. You can tell you don't have good depth when you're starting Davin Joseph because he should be a backup in the NFL. So.
I can agree because Davin Joseph is garbage.
Hot garbage.
He was garbage back when he was with the Bucs, though.
Yeah, he was. He's one of those guys that went to a Pro Bowl early in his career and basically coasted off of that reputation for like the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I'm not going to say worthless because that's just kind of messed up to say about a guy, but it kind of fits.
Yeah. All right. Other news from today: the Falcons did not tender restricted free agent Drew Davis. He was their only restricted free agent after they re-signed Patrick DeMarco. Basically, that means Drew Davis is an unrestricted free agent. It doesn't mean that the Falcons won't re-sign him, but he'll basically probably sit on the market for a couple of months, hoping that someone comes along and wants to sign a special teams wide receiver. And if no one does, then maybe he comes back to the Falcons at a minimum deal. But we can, it's probably a decent bet to say that the Drew Davis era of the Falcons history is perhaps over. So.
You mean we're not going to keep Drew Davis? Yeah. Such a shame.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I could be. It's Drew Davis. Like, I liked him. I thought he could be better than Harry Douglas, but let's be honest here, we're talking Harry Douglas.
I was optimistic after his first year. I thought he could, develop into a pretty good slot. But it didn't really get better after that point.
So,
no. He put on a nice spin move a couple of times. Was that in 2013 against the Packers or whatever when he scored that one touchdown? So, he'll always have that or something.
He scored a touchdown in the NFL. How many of us in life can say that?
Yeah. He got 3, I think.
Yeah, he had a bunch of them.
Yeah, so, he was basically Drew Davis was the Falcons' attempt to replace Eric Weems, and they basically got a poor man's Eric Weems for 3 years.
Which isn't really a bad thing.
Yeah, not terrible.
And then now they've got the rich man's Eric Williams back.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of wide receivers, a guy that could easily replace Drew Davis is none other than Leonard Hankerson. If I recall, played a little bit of special teams in Washington. Was their third wide receiver maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah, for a little bit.
Yeah, when Garcon was hurt, I think maybe. So, he's what, 6'5", 210, something like that. 4.4, 5 speed, something around there. Big guy, decent wide receiver, nothing special. Adds depth.
He's good enough to play fourth wide receiver in Atlanta if he can show that he's a decent special teams player.
Yeah. If we sign him, I don't think we're penciling him in as the third wide receiver. He's basically, the scenario I can see we getting played out is we sign him to like a 1-year deal. We draft a rookie wide receiver. If that rookie wide receiver is your typical rookie wide receiver and isn't very good, then Hankerson is your number 4 and Hester is your number 3. If that rookie receiver is good enough to be that number 3 guy, then Hankerson is your number 5 and Hester is your number 4. So
that's probably the best way to look at it.
So Scott, we talked about the guys that the Falcons added. Let's talk a little bit about some of the guys we lost. Sean Weatherspoon and Corey Peters to the Knicks.
They had no business losing Corey Peters. Absolutely none. They could have re-signed him. He wasn't asking for that much. He wanted 3 years, $10.5 million, and they offered him $1.75 million per year. And Corey rightfully said, "Oh, I don't think you guys want me. If you're offering that, I'm going to go to a team that wants me to be here and wants me to start and wants me to play, because you obviously don't want me to play the 60% of the snaps that I played last year." So he left, and he went to Arizona, where he's going to start in Darnell Dockett's old role, and then in nickel packages play the one tech, because Atlanta was stupid and let him go.
Yeah. The deal he signed with Arizona, 3 years, 10.5 or so, somewhere around that.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
That's the contract I would have offered him last year if I was the Falcons.
That's what?
That would have been the contract I would have offered him last year coming off the Achilles injury if I was the Falcons.
Yeah, and that's why the Falcons lost him.
Yeah, I mean, it just didn't really make any sense for the Falcons to basically lowball him, give him that 1-year, $1.5 million deal that he got last year, coming off the Achilles injury. I understand people are like, well, he's Achilles injury, you never know. This isn't 1997. Achilles injuries aren't as dire as they once were. They're not career enders like they used to be. Now it's like, okay, it's like an ACL tear. It's like, okay, you come back, you may not be the same exact player you were the year before, but you're not sitting there saying, oh no, Corey Peters is never going to play again and never be an effective starter ever again at age 27 or however old he was last year. It was just one of those things where I think the Falcons should have locked him up.
Younger than I am.
What?
He's younger than I am.
There you go.
He's 26 years old.
So yeah, it's just I don't get it. I congratulate Corey Peters. He's been on this show a couple of times, promoting his camp. It's a good camp that he has every summer. If he wants to come back on it, even though I know he has no reason to, but he's always welcome to come back on the show. And I wish him the best in Arizona. That Cardinals defense is going to be pretty fun to watch this year.
The best part about him going to Arizona, we don't have to see him again against Atlanta. until 2017, unless we see them in the playoffs.
Okay. All right. That'll be fun. Joining him in Arizona, but not by design, is Sean Witherspoon. And pretty good signing for the Cardinals, I think. They're getting, he's probably not going to be Darryl Washington, but they're getting Darryl Washington light in Sean Witherspoon.
Yeah, I think that's a safe way to put it.
So I'm going to miss Spoon.
Also, not under note, Mickey Schuler signed a futures contract
Okay.
with the
All right.
Falcons. That just popped up on the database.
All right. Well, now that we got our first and only Mickey Schuler reference of 2015 on this show.
So he catches that pass in the preseason. No, the losing Sean Witherspoon sucks. They lowballed him too. He wanted $2 million guaranteed. The Cardinals gave him $2 million guaranteed. The Falcons said, we're going to give you $1 million on a 1-year, $3 million deal.
Yeah, I don't get that.
I
don't get that.
Yeah. The base was $1 million, and then he had the incentives to possibly make $3 million. If you're the Falcons and you're signing Justin Durant for basically $2 million, we'll say, why not just sign Spoon to a $2 million contract with incentives to make 4 or 5? Why not sign him and offer him that initially and just be like, this is what we think you're worth? Because you're coming off 2 years worth of injuries. You were on the injured reserve 2 straight seasons. You don't want to do that, but this is where you're kind of at. It would make more sense. And he'd look at it and go, all right, well, $2 million and then another 3. Okay, yeah, if I make a maximum of 5 by playing, yeah, let's go. It's just dumb.
Well, here's the way I'll put it this, right? Babineau's cap hit this year is 3.6. Hester's is 3.7. Jake Matthews is 3.7. Jackson is 3.85. Hawley is 4. Asamoah is 4.3. Solier is 4.4. Roddy's 5.6. Like, if you paid Sean Witherspoon, if you say you gave him a 1-year, $4.5 million deal, would you look at that, at the Falcons cap situation, and be like, what the heck is Sean Witherspoon doing there making $4.5 million? Why is he the 6th highest paid player on our deal? I don't think he would do that. So it's just, to me, it's not like, yeah, if he wants $5 million, give him $5 million. Like, who cares? Yeah. You're paying Stan Baker $7 million. You're paying Julio Jones $10 million. Who cares if he wants $5 million?
At least he's good when he's on the field.
Yeah. I mean, you're not gonna cry. Like, even if he got hurt, even if he, God forbid, had another season-ending injury at the start of the season, $5 million is not a weight around your neck. It's not an anchor. It's like, oh, okay, well, maybe some mid-level starter, maybe we'll have to end up cutting, I don't know, Patrick DeMarco to save some money or whatever, when the season starts. I don't know. It just, to me, it's just lowballing again another player because he's coming off an injury, similar to what we just discussed with Corey Cooper. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But.
Well, and here's the thing: you pay $2 million, not 10, not 12, 2 towards cap space. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. I think every team in the NFL would gladly take would gladly take Sean Witherspoon for a $2 million cap hit in a friggin' heartbeat.
Yeah. Here's another way of thinking it. Lamar Holmes, T.J. Yates, and Peter Cons are all going to count about $4.2 million against the Falcons cap this year. You don't think Sean Witherspoon is worth $4.2 million?
Well, here's the thing. Even if he hits all his bonuses, they won't count because they're not likely to be earned. Not likely to be earned money never hits the cap. And then what's great about this rule is if he hits those not likely to be earned bonuses, and you sign him to a 2-year deal and it's got the same bonuses in both years, and then doesn't hit him the next year, you can roll over the next money into the cap, next year's cap.
Yeah.
It's an additional part of the rollover.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not mad at the Falcons for not signing Spoon. It's just kind of frustrating when you have a good player and you basically because I don't know, he wants $1 million more than you feel like giving him. You let a good player walk. You had I don't know, but it's just we got Durant, so it's not like a huge drop off or anything. But it's going to be a little frustrating if we find out that Justin Durant got like a 3-year deal and had like $1 million base salary in the first year and then had like a $4 million signing, and you just give him more money than you gave Sean Witherspoon. It's like, why couldn't you give Sean Witherspoon that money? I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense to anybody. And yes, they cut Justin Blaylock, which, I mean, have we not been calling that for weeks now? Yeah, it sucks. I love Blaylock, but at his salary for his scheme fit, it just didn't make any sense. And they're going to cut Sam Baker. I think what they're doing is they're waiting till the actual day, June 1st. They're going to cut him, and they're going to spend that money on rookies. Like, they're going to spend to the cap and then spend all this money on rookies. Because it just makes sense.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to end up happening. They'll draft the guy in the second or third round, and they'll be like, this guy's going to be our starter from day one. And Sam Baker, you can go and play for the Chargers or somebody. And, yeah, he'll probably get cut in June.
And right. Sam would probably be like, all right, well, that was a great, almost decade in Atlanta. I got paid, nearly, nearly $35 million in my career earnings from the Falcons. Or I could just retire, but that would make too much sense.
Well, Sam Baker got up pretty good in this whole relationship. Falcons not so much, but he did it all right for himself, so can't hate on the guy for that.
And then what's his name? Joe Hawley's mom hits me up on Twitter whenever I talk bad about Sam Baker on Twitter. She's like, Sam Baker is a good player. He's just been injury prone, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, he's not that good when he plays. That's the issue. Like, what if he was good when he was on the field? Be amazing. But he's not. He's bad. He shouldn't be a Falcon. I mean that in the nicest way possible. He just shouldn't be a Falcon. He needs to take his injured carcass, retire on a beach in Southern California, and just heal up and enjoy life, and don't worry about being 300 pounds. And I'm sure if he lost all the excess weight, he wouldn't be injured as much. I mean, I think a lot of people will attest to the fact that 300 pounds is just not healthy for humans. A lot of these guys are going to be a lot smaller once they get out of the NFL. It's very rare to naturally be 6 foot plus, 300 pounds. Very rare.
Yeah. Jason Peters, one of the few exceptions. So.
Who was the guy, the mountain, or what is it, Tony Washington?
Ted Washington.
Ted Washington. He's a naturally 400-pound, 6'6" guy. That's rare. Those guys don't exist.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Scott. I think we've pretty much, put that to bed about the Falcons moves today. Again, crossing our fingers. Let me check Twitter real quick. Make sure nothing's happened in the last 5 minutes. Okay. Done. Looks like we're good. All right. So let's talk about what could happen in the next week or so when we do this show next week. A lot of moves were made today. A lot of big moves were made today. Somebody who's been the bane of our existence for the last 5 years is out of the division.
Thank God.
You know,
Bye-bye, Jimmy. Bye, Jimmy. We don't ever have to see you again unless it's the playoffs, Jimmy. Bye-bye.
somewhere Stephen Nicholas is smiling. It's like, why couldn't this have happened, 3 years ago?
Somewhere Stephen Nicholas is going, I hate you, Jimmy. You're the reason why I retired early.
Yeah.
Total jerk.
But let's talk about some of the moves the Falcons didn't make. They didn't get a tight end today. They didn't get an offensive lineman. They didn't get a pass rusher yet. They didn't get a defensive back. They need nickel quarterback, maybe a free safety. So we're looking at some of these names that are left on the list. And, there's Jordan Cameron at tight end. There's Jermaine Gresham, who might sign with the Raiders. Who knows? I guess the question I ask you, Scott, is if the Falcons don't wind up signing Jordan Cameron, is the offseason a failure?
No, come on. The tight end position, even though it's not deep in the draft, you got a bunch of solid blockers in the draft. Worst case scenario, you take like Clive Walford in the 3rd round. You got a guy who compares very well to at the Senior Bowl, he looked a lot like Greg Olsen, just boxing people out, using basketball skills to get in the way, putting his hands up and just getting in the way. Miami tight ends have a great reputation in the league. You got Greg Olsen, you got Jimmy Graham, you got Jeremy Shockey. I mean,
Bubba Franks.
Bubba Franks. Again, Miami tight ends have a great reputation in the league. They're the U, and they have just ridiculous talent. And Clive Walford, I think, is going to be the next ridiculous talent out of the U. I think you put him on the field. I would say that if the Falcons don't get a pass rusher, it's a bust.
Okay.
But tight end, I'm not as worried about tight end. Yeah, I think Levine Toilolo is mediocre. I'm being nice about it.
Yeah, this is the nicest thing you said about Levine Toilolo in the last 4 months.
Can he block? Sure. Can he catch? Is he worth his contract? Is he a rookie still, essentially? Yeah, so should I cut him a little bit of slack? Maybe. But for right now, until he shows me something more, Atlanta needs a tight end. If he can somehow be a magic bullet, we're good. The reason why I think defensive end's more of an issue is the way I look at it right now, you're penciling in Stanley Mapanga and Malachi Goodman as your starters. And I think you and I would agree here that even if Malachi Goodman ends up starting and losing weight and looking like the guy that I think he was in college, he's probably not the ideal starter along the defensive line. At least not unless you've got like a Derek Morgan across from him and a Brooks Reed next to him and strong side linebacker with a guy like Vic Beasley rotating in and learning the scheme.
Yeah, it'd be a pretty big leap to put Goodman as more than basically a as a starter, he's really that sort of guy that he starts because he's on the first play in the field, not because he's going to give you 50, 60 snaps a game.
Oh, I think that's going to be his role no matter what. I think he's going to be part of the base packages. I just don't think he's going to be a 60% of the snaps kind of guy. I think he's going to be a 40%, on base package rundowns. He's that left end. The same way Paul Soliai on base package rundowns is going to be that nose tackle.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Where Tyson Jackson, I don't honestly see a role for him. I think they might hold on to him just because they already owe him the money. So it doesn't make sense to cut him.
Yeah, I think they have, another day to cut him before that last part of his guarantee money kicks in? And they don't cut him the next, I think, 48 hours. He's pretty much, they really don't have any reason to cut him after that point because they're already guaranteeing him, I think, 1.5 to bring up his total guarantee on that contract to $11 million. So the clock is ticking. All right, we're waiting for that Tyson Jackson news to come down the pipeline.
So basically, and the thing is, if they cut him before that, they take a $4.1 million cap hit this year. If they wait to cut him next offseason, they save 1.5.
Okay.
So they honestly might as well just wait till next year, see if they can get something out of him this year that's better than what they got. He might be able to play that base defensive end too. I like him better than I like, I don't know, Jacquez Smith for it.
Okay. I would hope so. Isn't Jacquez Smith like 245 pounds or something like that?
I mean, I can't like him more than Jacquez Smith for the role.
What, Tyson Jackson?
Yeah.
No, I think it's funny that you picked the guy who the one guy that you can like Tyson Jackson more is like a 250-pound defensive end who has no business playing that spot. So, yeah, I like where you went with that, Scott.
You saw what I was doing.
Yeah. Everybody else, Tyson Jackson, Jacquez Smith.
Yeah, basically. And it's not really knocking Smith. I just don't see a great fit for him in this new scheme.
Yeah.
Unless he's like the third string strong side linebacker behind Reed and Shembo. And, fourth string behind Starr.
We'll see. It'll be interesting. I'm curious if they're going to make Starr and Smith ends or linebackers. I'm thinking Smith probably be better off being an end and maybe Starr being a linebacker, but we'll see what happens.
And then Bartu, I don't see a role for Bartu on the team. Like third string weak side linebackers where I've got him right now, behind Justin Durant and Marquise Sproul.
He's on the bubble.
And then the linebacker core, let's just look at the linebacking core. I've got Durant, Warlow, and Reed as the starters. I've got Sproul, Stupar, and Shembo as the next three. And then I've got Bartu, Bradford, and Starr as the next three. If this was 2014, basically take the outside guys and bump the last two to the front. And that's what was going on. So this should be a better Atlanta team this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like the linebackers are way better. Getting Sproul back from injury, Shembo was fighting injury. Adding Durant and Reed, it's a completely different linebacking core, and it's going to be so much better. And I think that's going to help out Warlow in the middle because Warlow is not going to be a 3-down linebacker this year. I don't see it happening. Everybody gets all mad that I defend him, but he's just was in the wrong role.
Okay.
He really was.
We've been back and forth on Warlow. I'm good. We don't need to really talk about it, at least. or at least argue about it anymore. So
No, I got you. I don't understand why people are frustrated with the fact that I defend him on a role that actually fits his whatever. All right, so what's the next set of topics? We've got Brooks Reed, we've got guards. Ooh, guards kind of look like a train wreck.
this is why one of the reasons why I was a little worried about them cutting Blaylock, because it was like it's not a lot of options on the open market. So you're basically just waiting for the draft.
But to be fair, at the top of the second and the top of the third, tight end and guard are going to have a lot of options. A lot of options.
It's true. I just would have felt better if it was more like you kept Blaylock, you got that guard, you let him redshirt a year, and then plug him next year and be ready to go. But now he's got to learn under fire. So
Well, yeah, but say you get a guy like Jarvis Harrison out of Texas A&M. They ran a lot of zone concepts in that offense. Yeah, he's 6'4", 330, so he's not ideal, but the man can run. He's a lot faster than Laken Tomlinson or, Josu Matias, who are just awful athletes. Great players, just they're not athletic. Harrison was putting up similar numbers to what Blaylock did coming out of college, back when Blaylock played tackle.
Yeah.
And then Ali Marpet in the top of the second round would make a ton of sense. And Clive Wolford or, hell, even Darren Waller later on as a tight end would make sense. Or Blake Bell in the fourth round would make sense. But you might just have to punt on tight end this year and hope for the best. And hope that, Wade Harmon can work his magic.
All right. Yeah. Marseilles Lewis. He should be out there pretty soon. So. And as a 1 year student.
I'd rather have
Okay. Scott, let's talk a little bit about pass rush because you said earlier that you said if we don't get that pass rusher in free agency the offseason. Now, were you referring to getting a pass rusher in both free agency and the draft, or just, clarify a little bit?
I think you got to get one in each.
Okay.
I think if you don't get a good pass rusher in free agency, you're not going to get. You have to have at least one of your starting edge guys from free agency. The other position you can draft, because at 8, your worst case scenario is Shane Ray, which I hate Shane Ray for that pick, but it would make sense as a let's fill a need pick. I just don't think his talent is there. But say you get Dante Fowler at 8. Say you get Randy Gregory at 8. Say you get Vic Beasley at 8. Any one of those 3 guys at 8 would be a coup. Say you get Bud Dupree at 8. Yeah, his film may not say top 10, but his athleticism says top 10. And what's the whole thing you've been saying all summer? Or all off season, I should say. Well, we're just going to take athletes and teach them how to play football. That's what, that's the philosophy that Pete Carroll has in Seattle. And it's a great philosophy if it works. And if we've got the right teachers, I'm open to trying it. I'm one of those people that's more, hey, I want a football player with athletic potential as opposed to an athlete with football potential. But I've seen it work both ways. Jimmy Graham versus Jerome Harrison. So we've all seen it work both ways. There's two different schools of thought there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on the football player that's with athletic potential as a preference, but you know, when push comes to shove, take the athlete. That raw piece of clay that you can mold a little bit. So Falcons need to do that, especially in the early rounds when you can be a bit more willing to gamble on the high upside.
Yeah, but if that gamble is, oh, hey, this guy had really good film, Vic Beasley, or this guy's just a really good athlete, and he didn't, like, his film's not as good as Beasley, you're going to take Beasley. Like, if Beasley's there, he's the pick. I think even over Fowler. Just for his on-field and off-field presence, I think he's the pick.
Okay. All right. I think they're neck and neck. I probably lean Fowler right now, but by the time we get down to the draft, I might switch. So.
And honestly, if I get it wrong because one of them's not there and then the other one is, and I'm like, they're going to take the best of whoever's available, and they don't care who, it makes sense. Dimitrov tends to leave a need open for the draft, so I don't think he's going to sign two pass rushers in free agency. I think he'll go out and get Derek Morgan because Morgan's in town. I doubt he leaves. I truly doubt Derek Morgan leaves without a contract. Like, if he doesn't have a contract, I'll be shocked. And if I'm wrong, I'll be wrong. Whatever. I was wrong when I initially said, oh, Derek Morgan, whatever. I dismissed it. But it was stupid because I hadn't actually seen a lot of film of his since college. He wasn't a great pass rusher in college. He was a run defender who was active, had good hands, and threw guys around. If he had had someone across from him, just competent, someone competent across from him, that's not Camarion Wembley, he would have had so many more sacks.
Okay. I was a fan of Derek Morgan coming out. Of those three big pass rushers in that draft class, it was him, Brandon Graham, and Jason Pierre-Paul. Morgan was my favorite of those guys. I recognize the talent in Pierre-Paul, but he scared the crap out of me with how raw he was. But I can successfully say that both Pierre-Paul and Ziggy Ansah, two guys that I thought were incredibly raw, have definitely lived up to their potential. And that's a perfect example of an athlete with football potential developing. So for me, with Morgan, I think it's like, it's basically correcting a mistake that we didn't, I won't say, well, drafting Sean Weatherspoon was a mistake or anything, but we didn't have the opportunity to get Morgan because he went off the board early. But, we'll get him now.
It would have been nice to have both.
Yeah. Would have been real nice, right?
And imagine getting Brandon Graham. That would have been that 2010. Keeping Corey Peters all over again, being like, hey, man, we got all three of the guys we really wanted in that draft.
Yeah. If we could just get Geno Atkins, it would have been, perfect.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
So, Scott, what about the defensive backs? Is there anybody out there that you think can, anybody you're like, I hope the Falcons can sign this guy?
I mean, if they re-sign Robert McClain and then bring in Walter Thurman, I'll be very happy. Like, that to me makes the most sense.
Okay. Yeah, I can't disagree. I think if you sign Thurman, you got to have a insurance policy because that guy is always hurt. Good player, but he's always hurt. So, if McClain is that guy for you, then okay, no complaints here. I'm one of like 8 people that likes Robert McClain. So,
well, I mean, having him on the roster for camp doesn't kill us.
Yeah.
The whole point of free agency is to keep all of your guys, stack all of your guys, no matter how good or bad they were. If they started for you during the year, they're worth keeping because they at least know your fellow personnel. And, worst case scenario, you cut them. But they're worth a camp roster. They're worth a camp invite if they started for you the year before. If they played games for you the year before. You have 90 camp invites. You have to fill out the roster. Fill it out with as much talent as possible. The cream will rise to the top.
Yes. Yes. I'm very much in favor of that philosophy.
So, I mean, if you've got 17 free agents and you can bring back 15 of them, and the 2 you don't bring back or you only bring back everybody that's under 30, it's whatever. That's what you should do. Re-sign all your players under 30. If they're over 30, let them go. Like, you don't need to bring back the Sean Locklears of the world.
Okay, yeah.
The Jonathan Scotts of the world.
I was really hoping for Jonathan Scott to come back. Yeah, you just ruined that dream, Scott.
You see what I'm saying, though? Like, those aren't the guys that you bring back. So just bring back as much young talent as you can, and then eventually you'll have a great team. Keep drafting, and I've become there's a guy on Pro Football Focus named Steve Palazzolo that has converted me over to his philosophy of drafting, which is it's a crapshoot. Take 15 players a year and then hope for the best.
Yeah. I'll go with that.
You'll have the deepest, best roster if you do that. And the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. Now, he's saying spread your picks out through all the rounds, but still, it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, man, let's jump into these mailbag questions. We got plenty.
Oh, man.
All right, Stephen Brooklyn asks, why didn't the Falcons sign Lance Kendricks, and do you think they spent too much money on Brooks Reed?
Because Lance Kendricks sucks, and not really. I mean, Brooks Reed, the contract probably is going to flow with the inflation of the league, and it's easy to structure $22 million into all the cap space Atlanta had, and Atlanta's going to have over the next few years. Like, it's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, I'm curious if it's going to be structured similar to the deal we gave Deku a couple of years ago, which was basically, I think his cap hits in the first 2 years was like $2.5 and $2.8 million, which is, pretty cheap for a starter. And then it kind of jumped in the last 3 years. It was pretty backloaded. And that they gave Deku that deal basically because they were like, well, you're good enough to be our starter for like the next 2 years, but we feel like we can get better than you, so we're going to backload your deal and just basically buy ourselves 2 more years to find your replacement. They didn't find his replacement. They gave him 3 years and then he was terrible. But I have this feeling that the Reed contract might be similar, where they'll basically have low-end deals, relatively low cap hits those first 2 or so years and then backload it, which is basically like yeah, we like Brooks Reed. We think we'll get a productive starter out of him, but we feel like we can do better. So we're just going to buy ourselves 2 more years to find a better guy. Which, if they end up drafting someone like Vic Beasley, it won't have taken 2 years. It would have taken 2 months. But we'll see what happens.
Well, if they end up drafting Vic Beasley and signing, Derek Morgan, the strong side defensive end starter just becomes Derek Morgan. You just use him the way you used Michael Bennett, and you have Vic Beasley be the Cliff Avril role. And then at strong side linebacker, you have Brooks Reed playing a true strong side linebacker, which he's probably a better fit for.
Yep, that's one way it could play out. Another way is you bring in Beasley and you're like, we really like him as a pass rusher, but he's more of a situational pass rusher, so we're going to let him play in space, and we're going to use him like Bruce Irvin as opposed to Cliff Avril. which is, the beauty of Vic Beasley is you have that potential to do both. So, you know.
Which either way, as long as you use your players and you maximize them, who cares what they're making and getting paid? As long as you're under the cap, who cares?
Yeah. All right. Okay. Harrison Naylor asks, who should we draft first overall because we didn't get enough rumors out? Please help. I think he's referring to the fact that there wasn't a lot of buzz over the weekend, so he's looking forward to the draft as opposed to free agency. That's my guess.
I mean, whatever. The Falcons should take a defensive end, pass rusher, whatever you want to call it, with their 8th overall pick. And yeah, they don't get rumors out, but who cares?
Yeah, all right. Yeah, don't disagree with that. Even if they get Morgan, I think they're going to be locked in on that pass rusher, regardless. It's really the only move that makes sense. Like, the Falcons basically take the best pass rusher available, or they trade back and just keep trading back until they can basically get like Daniil Hunter or Owa Odigizua or something like that, and just accumulate picks or something. I don't know, but something like that.
Or like trade down to 15 and still get Shane Ray. Yeah, that's probably the most likely situation.
Yeah. I mean, but once you start trading back, you just pull a Ozzie Newsome and just keep trading back until you get like future first round picks and stuff like that. But Jesse, we see your question. Why did the Falcons suck during free agency? Peters, hashtag Spoon, hashtag SMH, shake my head. We feel your pain, Jesse.
Suck in free agency. They were just, what's the best way to put this?
Cheap?
Nah, they just didn't want to take injury risks. And I can understand why. Like, Durant's probably going to be a way cheaper contract than anybody's thinking. And their view is, well, if we can get Durant to take 1.5, why would we have Spoon for the same 1.5 if when Spoon's healthy, he's probably Durant this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, Scott. It's a situation where I understand where their thinking is coming from. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I'm not going to sit here and say they're idiots or anything like that. But,
and then
it's not.
Well, and Peters was, we spent a second-round pick, a $35 million contract, and a $25 million contract on defensive tackles last year.
Yeah.
And we spent another 10 bringing back Jonathan Babineau. Where does Peters play?
Yeah. Now, the argument, obviously, is maybe they shouldn't have done at least 2 of those moves. But
we'll go with, I'm going to go with one of them, and that's Tyson Jackson.
Okay.
Because the other 3 make sense in theory.
Okay. All right. Hey, it is what it is, man. We'll miss him.
We'll miss Peters more than Spoon. Because Peters sees the field.
Okay. We'll see. All right. Mr. Mac Daddy Sr. asks, what player are y'all most and least excited about that we signed?
Most excited? Justin Durant, because he's decent in coverage. But honestly, I'm most excited that the Saints traded away Jimmy Graham. Like, that made today good. Like, nothing that the Falcons could have signed nobody and let like Anton Smith go and all this stuff, and just the fact that Jimmy Graham is gone just made my day. Like, he's in Seattle. Thank God. No more Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, I'll go with Durant as my most excited. Least excited, Mike Person. Yeah, I mean, no brainer there.
I'm with you there.
Yeah.
Played 69 snaps in his career. Like,
You know, he is what he is. You know, camp body basically.
exactly.
Um, I think we just answered your second question, Mr. McDaddy Senior. Is Justin Durant a good signing? I think we both would say yes. Um, Stephen Hester asked, chances the Falcons go after Braden Browner would be a great cornerback duo with Desmond Trufant.
Yeah, so the nickel package could be the most penalized nickel package in the league between Brandon Browner and Robert Alford. Yeah, no, I don't see it happening.
Yeah, if you're an offensive coordinator facing the Falcons, and they have Brandon Browner and Robert Alford on the field at the same time, it's basically like, okay, quarterback, pick one and throw at him. He's gonna hold. He's gonna get a flag, defensive pass interference. So I think the chances are low that the Falcons go after Brandon Browner. I'm sure they might sniff around him, see what his contract situation, what he'll ask for. But unless he's basically going to take that classic deal that a lot of cornerbacks have taken the last couple of years, which is like a 1 year, $5 million deal, I don't really see the Falcons, looking hard at him. So
Oh, I do want to put this out there because I had a bunch of people ask me on Twitter this past couple of days about Greg Hardy. The Falcons will not sign him. The Falcons will not sign anybody who is in the domestic abuse program. They will not sign anybody who's been, and this goes without saying, but they will not sign anybody who's been accused of murder. So no, if Aaron Hernandez gets let off, they're not going to go out and sign Aaron Hernandez. Okay, they're not going to go out and get Greg Hardy. And there comes a point where does the off-field matter more than the on-field? And I think that line is crossed for domestic abuse. Like, dude gets in a bar fight, whatever. Dude beats the hell out of his wife, I don't want him on the team. Period. Regardless of how shady the case is, I don't want that kind of... that's not the publicity you want for your team. Like dogfighting ring. Never again. So that's the big thing. Michael Vick ruined the concept of bad off-field character for Atlanta. They won't take another chance like that again. They don't ever want to take another chance like that again. Nor should they ever take another chance like that again.
yeah, I'm with you there, Scott. I've gotten a lot of tweets over the last couple of weeks. People that really think the Falcons should go after Greg Hardy. I'm not going to sit here and tell people that their opinion is wrong, but it's just not going to happen. That's the bottom line. It's like wishing that you had a toilet seat made out of gold. It's just not going to happen. So.
But let's put it this way. Greg Hardy is a great football player on the field. But at a certain point, he has to be on the field. And if you get caught with domestic abuse a second time, it's a lifetime ban. I'm not sinking a whole butt ton of cash into a guy who, despite how great he is, might get banned for life because he gets a second domestic violence thing. No thanks. Not for me.
Yeah. I don't know if there's much more I can add. You're right. He's a great football player. He'd be perfect in that Michael Bennett role in Dan Quinn's defense, but it ain't gonna happen. So, All
All
right.
right, next question.
Back to the mailbag. All right, we got another person who wants to know about Browner, but he also throws in Crabtree, as in Michael Crabtree, because I'm pretty sure he's not thinking about Tom Crabtree. But you think Crabtree's going to be in the mix?
What?
No, I don't think the Falcons are gonna go after Michael Crabtree. No.
No, man. Come on. Really? No. No. Oh man. No. Just no to both. I don't see either one coming to Atlanta.
All right, our buddy Sammy Socialite, friend of the show, asked, "Did the Falcons' free agent strategy get disrupted by teams keeping players out of the free agent market?"
That's why you re-sign your own players. That's why the best teams have, $20 million in contract, but really good rosters. Like $20 million in cap space going into free agency, but really good rosters. Like Denver last year had $20 million in cap space, had a really good roster, and just got better. They did the same thing this year. They're going to do the same thing next year. Because Elway knows how to manage the cap and get good talent. The best teams can do both.
Yeah, I'm glad the Patriots made my bold talk of Devin McCourty not hitting the market become a reality, because just couldn't imagine that scenario happening. Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, when it comes to free agency, people always look at the list of free agents like in January and like, oh, this guy's going to be a free agent. Oh, the Giants aren't letting Jason Pierre-Paul walk. The Patriots, aren't letting Devin McCourty walk. Good players don't become free agents. That's why everybody was going crazy about Sue becoming a free agent. That's why a couple of years ago everybody was going crazy about Mario Williams becoming a free agent. Because the reality is, the only times that those really upper tier players become free agents are usually when they're about to get $100 million. Because some teams like, hey, we're not going to give you $100 million. Let somebody else give it to you. And that's basically what happens. So, when Desmond Trufant's contract is up in, 2 years, he ain't hitting the market. Falcons going to resign him. So, it's just one of those situations where good players don't leave their teams. They're too valuable. So, yeah.
Bingo. Contract prediction for Derek Morgan from JD Beast. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think because he has the Falcons a little bit over the barrel, because he can leave and go somewhere else, he might get a little bit more than probably I was initially expecting him. So I'm going to say somewhere around 6 to 7 million a year, guaranteed money, maybe 15.
So that would put
Like right up about where Brandon Graham got, like maybe slightly above Graham, if I'm
so you're
remembering
thinking
that
like
contract.
31 million, 5 years, 15 guaranteed.
That sounds right.
Okay. Yeah, that's I'm projecting about 38 million, 5 years, and like 16, 17 guaranteed.
Yeah.
So if he comes in under that, it's a steal. If he
Yeah.
comes in slightly over that, you got to pay to get a pass rusher.
Yeah.
You got to pay to get at least one pass rusher this year.
Yeah. That's basically it. Yeah. Anything over that is basically the Falcons are like, yeah, we really can't let him leave Atlanta, so pay him whatever he wants.
Well, basically, if Atlanta does that, they spent $60 million on Derek Morgan and Brooks Reed in the first day of free agency. And I remember you saying if Atlanta spent $60 million in the first day of free agency on a pair of pass rushers, it probably wouldn't be too bad.
It's amazing. This has never happened before in Atlanta. $60
Yeah,
million in pass rushers? Crazy. You mean
Atlanta's getting pass rushers.
you're going to spend $60 million on guys that are actually going to play every down? That's amazing to me.
Or at least like 80%.
Yeah, that's weird. That's weird. I don't know. Something strange is in the air in Atlanta. We're not going to spend $60 million on role players. It's weird. I don't know.
Oh, man.
All right. Evan Birchfield asks, assuming Morgan is signed tonight, what players or player would you like to see signed tomorrow?
Ooh, that's a tough one. We'll say if Morgan signed at any point this week, who else would I like to see signed with him? I'm going to put two names out there. Dwight Lowery. Love to see him come back. And then Charles Clay. If you're going to get a tight end, you might as well get someone who is willing to block, even if he's not great at it, and get Charles Clay.
All right. Just had to check to see if my Jabal Shear dream had died in the last hour. So far, it hasn't. So hey, double dip. Why not? um,
That's a triple dip, and I'd be perfectly okay if Brooks Reed, Jabal Sheard, and Derek Morgan were the three starting pass rushers essentially, and then you also drafted a guy at number 8, like Vic Beasley, and basically said we're just gonna run these 4 guys in rotation and let them destroy people.
Yeah, I like to see that NASCAR package.
Let's go.
I guess if I was being more realistic, I'd probably say Jordan Cameron. I'm a little worried about his concussion issue, and I think you got to sign him to the right contract. But basically something that doesn't guarantee a whole lot of money. But he's sort of the guy that you're looking at the tight end market. So hey, he knows his offense. He can be a good pass catcher. Why not? So, which brings up the next question: do you think it's still possible to sign Jordan Cameron?
I mean, yeah, but not a fan of it.
Okay. All right, Scott. What about Curtis Lofton?
Next.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Jonathan Rod. Yeah, Curtis Lofton ain't coming back. Dirty Bird Wilson. He says, "I'm so fired up to be here," using the DQ voice. I haven't got my Dan Quinn impression down, so maybe next week, Dirty Bird Wilson, I'll be able to get it down in the voice. But he asks, what moves can be made to fill this tight end free safety hole that we've been digging?
Well, I mean, worst case scenario, you play the guys you had last year starting there, and Dwight Lowery and Levine Toilolo. For a worst case scenario, that's honestly not that bad. It's basically saying we're going to push this off one more year to a stronger draft for both spots. Best case scenario, Atlanta drafts, Eric Rowe at the top of the second round to play free safety. He's 6'1", he's tall, he's long. Or Desmond Southward magically turns into, maybe not Earl Thomas, but say, who's a solid deep safety? A better version of Raheem Moore. Or like a Malcolm Jenkins. Malcolm Jenkins, basically. Yeah, he gets burnt maybe once a year, but he'll get you 4 picks every time he gets burnt. For every time he gets burnt. So it's worth it. And then tight end, maybe Levine Toilolo magically turns into the guy that the Falcons thought they drafted and is a 50-catch, 600-yard, 6-touchdown guy. That's all he really has to be. He doesn't have to be this crazy good, top 3 tight end. He just has to be a guy he has to be Algie Crumpler in a different body. That's what he has to be. If Levine Toilolo can tomorrow play like Algie Crumpler and get 50 catches, 600 yards, 6 touchdowns, and block well, we're good.
Okay. Trying to think. I think they can probably go stopgaps at both spots, as Scott was talking about. 2 names I'll throw out there: James Casey, Mercedes Lewis at tight end. Safety, we talked about Raheem Moore previously. I don't I don't know if he's still in the market, but Stevie Brown may be an option for a year. Um, yeah, I have to look at the free agent list again, but those are some of the names off the top of my head. Just to get a body in there, have someone push or beat Godfrey for the job and hope for the better next year. So
Norris Searcy would be a guy that a lot of people have been throwing around. He signed with the Titans, but he was more of a strong safety. Louis Delmas is another name that you could see, but I'd rather not have him. Honestly, again just go re-sign Dwight Lowery. Just go do it. He proved it with his prove it. Like, what else does he have to do on his prove it deal? Just go out and get him.
yeah, I'm not going to complain about that. So all right. Street Poet 2012 asks, keep it simple with free agency, still at full swing. How much do you like free agency? What's next? He asked about the tight end, but we'll stick to his other part, defensive back. So basically, how much you like the free agent moves and so far, and what's next at TB?
I mean, it started out well. If the Falcons can go out and get Derek Morgan, re-sign Dwight Lowery, and if they re-sign Dwight Lowery and go get Derek Morgan, that clears up a lot of the holes. That means Atlanta's biggest hole is strong side defensive end or Leo, depending on what you draft, nickel corner, and then starting tight end, and then left guard. But left guard's probably going to be a cluster until the draft anyway. So you've got serviceable guys in spots that you need them. The only spot that you're questioning is left guard. But you've got Peter Collins, Mike Person, Sam Baker, potential options. Not ideal, but potential options. Maybe even Harlan Gunn, who I'm probably sleeping on, but I don't see him as anything more than a solid depth guy. I like Harlan Gunn as a depth guy. That's all I see him as. If he's got to play 20 snaps in the game, you're good. If he's got to play the entire game, you're probably screwed.
Okay. I will say about Harlan Gunn, to me, this might be dating myself a little bit, but when Alex Gibbs first showed up in Atlanta in 2004, he had a pet project by the name of Mookie Moore that they were planning on starting at left guard until I can't remember why they didn't start him. He got hurt or something. But I feel like Harlan Gunn could be the Mookie Moore of this team, a guy that gets a shot at being the starter, and if everything clicks for him in the preseason, maybe. But you're probably right. He's more of a depth guy than a true starter, but maybe.
Mookie Moore played all of one game for the Falcons in 2004 after Alex Gibbs came in.
Yeah.
I think Harlan Gunn.
Something happened. I can't remember who started with it. I don't think we had Larry yet. I can't remember. Maybe Garza was still on the team. I can't remember.
What happened was he got injured after the first week.
Okay.
And then never played another down.
Yeah, it was 10 years ago. I don't really remember the details. So.
That's the way I remember it. Maybe I'm wrong, but it was just at a point where it was like, okay, yeah, this guy's good, but whatever. Oh.
All right. We got another one from Evan Birchfield. He says, does your hopeful draft selection remain the same after seeing today's signings?
Yeah, I mean, I still want Dante Fowler or Vic Beasley in the first round. I still want Ali Marpet in the second, and I still want Clive Walford in the third. I mean, that's kind of the mock draft I've been projecting for a little bit. And if that happens, that's what, 1, 2, 3 guys who could be potential starters right away. Not just be starters, but be good players. And I've been told by multiple scouts that it won't be shocking to see Marpet taken in the top half of the second.
Yeah.
So 42 is a good fit for him.
I would say today's signings probably mean the chances that we get Kendricks at the top of round two went down. So I guess that changes. But he may not even be there at 42, so it wouldn't really have mattered anyway. But I think today's signings give the Falcons a little bit of flexibility so that they don't. I think had they not made the moves to get Reed and Durant today, they basically would have been in a situation where they had to take the best linebacker on the board at 42. So now they don't have to. They can wait.
All right. Yeah, I mean, nothing really changed.
Yeah. All right. Evan Birchfield asks, this is a question I think Scott's going to enjoy answering. Your thoughts on the mess in New Orleans?
What's the word? You know how a train wreck is so gruesome that you like want to look away, but you can't because you're just intrigued? Or like a dumpster fire is the same way.
Huh?
That's kind of what we're looking at in New Orleans right now. It's not a bad fit. I'm enjoying it, honestly. Oh look, Jason Worlds is retiring. There's news. Not that I think he's any different than Brooks Reed, but yeah,
Interesting.
that was your pick for the Falcons, man.
Yeah. Whatever. I'm not going to miss Jason Worlds. Really liked him at Virginia Tech, but he's just not as explosive as I thought he was going to be in the pros. As for the thing in New Orleans, I think it's interesting because obviously they gave up the number one guy in their offense besides Drew Brees. But I do think it's interesting that they went out and got Unger, who's an underrated center. And the thing about the Saints' success, you can argue, it has less to do with their skill position players and the fact that their offensive line has always given Drew Brees like 70 years to throw the ball in the pocket. And the thing about Unger is he's basically like Sean Witherspoon. When he's healthy, he's one of the two or three best centers in the NFL. But he's not always healthy. And so if you put him with Grubbs and if somehow Jari Evans, finds a way to not suck anymore, you have the makings of the best interior offensive line in the NFL. And so at that point in time, Brees is going to have like 8 seconds to throw the ball, so it doesn't really matter who he's throwing it to. So, if it works out for the Saints, good for them. Not so good for us. But it's an interesting move, so I'm curious to see how it plays out.
I mean, yeah, I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked if it's not like the losing a guy like Jimmy Graham affects an offense so much because you have that tight end who can play tight end and wide receiver. You've got a guy who likes to block, who likes to, or maybe not likes to block, but blocks well from the outside, blocks well from the slot, who can attack the seam, who's a matchup issue for both tight ends and safeties. It's tough. So there's no real reason to trade a guy like that. Who's the X factor in New Orleans now? Brandon Cooks?
Right now.
2 years ago they had Sproles and Jimmy Graham. And that was scary. That was a scary offense to face when they were both healthy. Now, no Sproles, no Jimmy Graham. You got Brandon Cooks. Like, all right, whatever. Like, I'm not scared of Brandon Cooks the way I'm scared of Jimmy Graham. The way I'm scared of Darren Sproles. The way I'm scared of Reggie Bush back when he was there. Just there's no one to be worried about. Like, you can put Trufant on Cooks. You can put Alford on Colston, and then where's their weapon? Josh Hill, like Mark Ingram running out of the backfield. Yeah, that's great, but that's just run defense. So
it'll be interesting because I'm thinking, maybe they go after Funches just to be that sort of movable player to play that Graham role. But we'll see what happens. I don't know. All right, last question. Stephen Brooklyn again. He asks, why not find a chicken wing company that will sponsor the podcast? Why haven't we done this, Scott?
Oh, what you don't know. Trust me, I am trying to find a chicken wing company to sponsor us. I'm in discussions with both Wild Wings and Buffalo Wild Wings, as well as a place here called The Wing. But until someone actually gives me money and wings, I am not letting them sponsor the podcast.
Okay.
And then Aaron, and when I say wings, I mean like a lifetime membership card for free wings for the rest, for however long the place stays open.
Yeah. I want lifetime free wings, which if I ever got that, probably would be about 5 years because I'd probably have a heart attack from eating too many chicken wings. But it'll be 5 years worth it in my book. So, yeah. So we're doing this. We're getting this done. All right. We know who the perfect sponsor for this podcast would be. Someone who sells chicken wings. So if anybody's interested, we will definitely pimp your product all day, every day. So, yeah. All right, folks. That is our show tonight. I hope you enjoyed our recapping the opening day of free agency. Hopefully this won't be too dated, as Derek Morgan gets signed in the next 5 minutes after we get finished posting this thing. But if you want us to,
if he does, we'll do a podcast tomorrow for like 15 minutes. Derek Morgan, and then that's it.
Well, there you go, folks. So cross your fingers. If you want to hit us up in the meantime, you can hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Falcons. You can tweet Scott at Scott Karasik. Tweet the show at FalconsPFZ. If you want your question answered on the show, then use the hashtag FalconsMailbag, and that'll be the best way that we can find it. I apologize to anybody if we missed your question this week. A lot of stuff going on today, so maybe a couple of tweets slipped through the cracks, but hopefully things will die down a little bit by the time we get to next week's show. So that won't make that mistake again. And that's our show. Scott's gonna be writing stuff for Bleacher Report. I'll be writing stuff for FalcFans.com, and we'll see you guys next week.